Marvel has finally begun the official build-up to Avengers, Doomsday. But instead of clarity, the studio has delivered confusion, leaks, and more questions than answers. Over the past few weeks, rumors suggested Marvel would debut the first real footage from Doomsday ahead of select theatrical screenings of Avatar, Fire and Ash. On paper, the strategy made sense. James Cameron's latest visual spectacle guarantees packed theaters, and placing an Avengers trailer in front of it could lure Marvel fans back into cinemas in a big way. In an era where everything is expected to hit the internet instantly, there was something almost radical about the idea of keeping a major trailer exclusive to theaters. No YouTube upload, no social media drop, just word of mouth and the promise that you'd have to actually show up to see it. For a franchise struggling with declining excitement and so-called superhero fatigue, it could have been a bold reset, but almost immediately, that plan began to fall apart. Reports quickly surfaced that not one, but multiple versions of the Avengers Doomsday trailer were being circulated ahead of Avatar screenings. Some viewers claimed to have seen Avengers footage before the movie. Others said there was nothing at all. Meanwhile, shaky phone recordings began appearing online, filmed in dark theaters, cropped, blurry, and riddled with compression artifacts. For many fans, their first glimpse of Marvel's next Avengers epic wasn't a polished cinematic reveal, it was a rumor in motion. According to multiple eyewitness accounts, the first leaked trailer places Steve Rogers front and center once again. The footage reportedly frames him with emotional weight, reinforced by on-screen text, confirming that the character will return in Avengers Doomsday. That single implication was enough to send Marvel fandom into overdrive, reigniting debates that many thought were settled back in 2019. And this is where Marvel's problems begin to stack up. Steve Rogers already had one of the most definitive endings in the entire MCU. In Avengers Endgame, Chris Evans' Captain America didn't die in battle or vanish into legend. Instead, he stepped away. He traveled back through time, chose a quiet life, and was last seen as an elderly man passing the shield to Sam Wilson. Marvel then spent years reinforcing that decision, dedicating an entire Disney Plus series and a new Captain America film to establishing Anthony Mackie's Sam Wilson as the future of the role. So what exactly are fans being asked to accept now? Are we supposed to believe that Steve Rogers has returned somehow youthful, combat-ready, and ready to go toe-to-toe with Robert Downey Jr.'s Dr. Doom? If so, how much narrative gymnastics is Marvel willing to perform before the idea of consequence in the MCU completely collapses? Every major emotional goodbye begins to feel temporary if it can be undone whenever nostalgia demands it. Of course, there are theoretical ways Marvel could explain this without completely torching Endgame. The multiverse provides endless loopholes. Perhaps this is a variant Steve Rogers from a different timeline, one who never retired, never stayed behind, and never passed on the shield. Maybe this Steve was pulled into the conflict by a multiversal collapse beyond his control. Or perhaps the simplest explanation is the most uncomfortable one. Marvel needed Chris Evans back. Another leaked trailer reportedly shifts focus to Chris Hemsworth's Thor, suggesting that Doomsday may indeed be reassembling the original Avengers core, just with one major twist. Tony Stark may be gone, but Robert Downey Jr. is still very much part of the picture, now wearing the mask of Dr. Doom. Two men who once defined the heart of the MCU are being summoned back into the story, even after their endings were supposed to be final. For fans, this has created an oddly frustrating experience. You can go see Avatar, Fire and Ash, and maybe, just maybe, you'll catch a glimpse of Avengers, Doomsday. Or maybe you won't. Online, all you can find are leaks that feel more like urban legends than official marketing. Add in Marvel's ominous countdown live streams, and the whole rollout starts to feel less like hype and more like deliberate ambiguity. And that raises a bigger question. Is this really what building anticipation looks like in 2025? Or has Marvel become so tangled in its own multiverse that even its marketing now mirrors the confusion of its storytelling? For longtime Marvel fans, the current Avengers Doomsday rollout feels strangely disorienting. There is footage, but it isn't officially released. There are trailers, but no one is quite sure how many exist or which ones are real. Some fans are seeing Avengers material before Avatar, Fire and Ash. Others are walking out confused, and everyone else is piecing together the story through leaks that look like they were filmed from inside a jacket pocket. This isn't just unusual marketing, it feels like a reflection of where the MCU itself now stands. At its peak, Marvel thrived on clarity. Even when secrets were kept, there was always a sense of direction. Characters aged, arcs concluded, and big moments carried weight. Endgame worked because it felt final. It was a promise that choices mattered, that sacrifice wasn't temporary, and that the story would move forward rather than circle back. Now, with Doomsday, that promise feels increasingly fragile. The return of Steve Rogers isn't just a casting decision, it's a philosophical one. If Marvel can undo one of its most carefully constructed endings, what does that say about the future of consequence in the MCU? Sam Wilson has spent years earning his place as Captain America, both on screen and in the story. Reintroducing a youthful, battle-ready Steve Rogers risks undercutting that journey, even if the explanation ultimately relies on variants or alternate timelines. The multiverse was once Marvel's most exciting storytelling tool. It allowed for creative freedom, surprise crossovers, and the merging of previously separate franchises like the X-Men and Fantastic Four. But now, it's starting to feel less like a narrative device and more like a safety net, one that catches the franchise every time it stumbles at the box office. When stakes can always be rewritten, the emotional investment begins to fade. And yet, there's no denying the power of nostalgia. Seeing Chris Evans and Chris Hemsworth back in action taps into a decade of audience attachment. Bringing Robert Downey Jr. back, even as Dr. Doom, is a move designed to command attention instantly. Marvel knows exactly what it's doing here. The question is whether this is a temporary spark or a sustainable direction. What makes the situation even more surreal is how perfectly the marketing mirrors the themes of Doomsday itself. A fractured narrative, multiple versions of reality, conflicting accounts of what's real and what isn't. The rollout has become part of the story, whether intentionally or not. The MCU is no longer just telling a multiverse story, it's living inside one. In a strange way, Marvel may have perfected a marketing strategy for the current era. A blockbuster launched as rumor, sustained by leaks, powered by nostalgia, and headlined by characters who already had their endings now pulled back into the spotlight anyway. It's messy, confusing, and undeniably effective at keeping people talking. Whether Avengers Doomsday delivers clarity or doubles down on chaos remains to be seen. But one thing is certain, Marvel is betting big that familiarity will outweigh fatigue. And as the countdown continues, fans are left wondering whether the MCU is building toward a bold new future or circling back because it doesn't know where else to go. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more deep dives into Marvel news, leaks, and theories, make sure to subscribe to the channel. There's a lot more coming as Doomsday approaches.